Hey there, I'm Nick. In this video, I'm going to be setting up a reverse proxy server, which will allow you to have two websites on two different servers while only having one public IP address. I made chapter breaks for this video at the bottom in the description, so if you want to skip ahead, you can do that. A quick background. In the past, I used AWS and other cheap cloud services, but I found that this was better. It was actually cheaper for me, given that I had access to low-cost servers and my internet's pretty fast. And honestly, I just find it pretty cool. I wrote an article before doing this video and I posted it to my website, and I'll probably post a version of that on Medium as well. So I'll be using it to guide this video. And if you want to copy the sample files directly from there and modify them to your case, I'll leave a link to that in the description below. All right, so in this video, I'm going to use 3 Ubuntu servers, and I've got a little description, a little diagram here that shows the setup. You'll see that there are 3 servers. One that runs each of the apps at the bottom of my diagram, which makes sense for me because I've got a production environment and a development environment. Then the reverse proxy server, which I'm calling machine 01, and you can see that in the middle of the diagram. And that's what's going to direct the traffic behind the router. Okay, so also just a heads up, I'm using VMware on one physical machine to create these virtual servers in my case. The physical machine is connected to my router. And finally, my workstation is a Mac M1, and it's also connected to the router. You might have 3 physical servers, and as long as you can connect everything to the router and SSH into them, this tutorial should still be helpful for you too. All right, so let's get into it. Okay, so now let's take a look at the websites that we're going to be hosting, and let's look at them from inside the network. So I've already got 2 terminals running, and what I'm going to do is I've got 2 terminals running on their respective machines with the apps running on port 5000. And there's no active firewall on those machines. So we should be able to copy the URL, the local IP address for each of them. So I'm going to copy this one for the production server and do 5000. Okay, so that's the one for the production server, and then we've got another one for the development server. So that IP address is different, it just ends with 136, and then we do :5000. Okay, so now we know that they're working. Now let's go set up the Nginx files for each of the servers. Okay, so now I'm going to create a folder on my desktop called Reverse Proxy Server. This is where I'm going to put my Nginx files. So I'm going to call this Reverse Proxy Server Setup. Okay. And in there, I'm going to have 2 folders. I'm going to do a production server, and I'm going to have another one for development server. Okay. And these are where I'm going to store the Nginx files. So I'm going to open up a Visual Studio Code because I'm going to edit in here, and I'm going to put these folders in here, these workspaces, and I am going to make a file in each of them. So the first one is going to be the Nginx file for the production server, and the convention is to use the website name. So in here, I'm going to copy this from the website, from my website, the article, and I'm going to use this production server name. And actually, you can't have capital letters, so I'm going to only, and I'll go into that in a minute. I'm going to take out, and then we add .conf. Okay. Now, for these, I've already got my server files, my Nginx file set up. So I'm going to copy it from the website again, and I'm just going to copy this here, and I'm going to paste it in here. And can actually take one backspace out of there. And so here you'll see some of the key things in here is the server name. So this is the website, the URL that we're going to add to it. It's listening on port 80. Here's the static block, the location block for the static files. So this is where my Flask application, the CSS and stuff is in. And then this location block is for where website is going to be running out of, which port. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing in the server, the development server. So I'm going to open up a new file, and I'm going to copy the server name, the URL name. Here, we could just do this. And I'm going to add .conf, and go here, and I'm going to copy these guys. And okay, now that we have these here, I'm going to move them into the server. So I've got, I use CyberDuck, and I've got a folder here already set up. So I'm going to close this for now. No, I don't need to save this, but so here's my production server. You can see the local IP address here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my, I'm just going to show you where I put these in there. So I go into Etsy, and then I go to Nginx and conf-d. And so here is where I'd put these files, but I can't actually drag and drop it in there because I don't have permission there. So I'm going to go back to my home folder and put it in here, and then move it from the terminal. So here's the production file. So I'm going to copy this here. And then I have a terminal already for my production web server. So, right. So then I'll here, and I'll see, okay, so this is in the app. I'm going to go back to my user folder. And so here I see the conf file, and I'm going to move that. So I'm going to do sudo move www, and then I just tab over and get this file name. Then I do etc nginx conf-d, and move that, and then ask for the password. Okay. All right, so now it's gone there, but now it should be in the etc file. So I will just double check there, nginx. And okay, now I gotta do the same thing for the development web app. So let's we can minimize this, and I'm gonna get here's the development server, and I'm gonna copy that Nginx file here, and then here's my development server terminal, and we could see here we go, development server, and I'll do, okay, we're still in the app folder. Okay, now I see the Nginx file, so I'm going to move it. So I'm going to sudo move www and etc Nginx conf-d, and there we go, and password. Okay, so now we've got that moved in there. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is open up the firewall, because I want to try to run this app. We're going to just test out the production server app on the internet, because once you set that up, then you don't, for the reverse proxy server, you don't have to make any changes to these servers. So we'll go to that next. I'm going to set up the firewall for the production server so we can test out that the website is visible over the internet before we set up the reverse proxy server. I'm going to do this just to make sure the app is visible over the internet without an extra layer of the reverse proxy server. This is a good check, because after we set this up, we don't need to make modifications to the production server Nginx files. When the reverse proxy server is set up, it will just direct the traffic to the production server as it is set up now. So if I do sudo ufw status, I'll see it's inactive. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to activate it. Sudo ufw status, or ufw enable, and it's just going to make sure that I know that it could, if the firewall is blocking port 22, this is going to shut off the terminal here. But now I know it's open, so now I'm going to do sudo ufw status, and I see it's working, and I have port 22 open and Nginx full rules. Okay, so now that I've got my firewall set up, I am going to set up my port forwarding rules, which are on the router, and your router app is going to be different than mine. Or I live in France and I use Free Mobile, so they provide me with a router, and I've got this application. You're probably gonna have to log into it, so you're gonna have to figure that out. And then once you do, you're gonna look for port forwarding. And so mine is on French, and it says Gestion de port. And so I go in here, and I've already set up port 80. Just to show how I would do this, I'll just delete this here, and I'll just add a rule. And then I've seen different router apps, and they've all got something like this where they show you the name of the router as well, so that's helpful. So this is the development server, but we want the production server, and it's in port 192.168.1.18. So I'm going to add that, and then direct all of it to there, and then I just need 80 for now. So we're gonna set that, and now the next thing we're gonna do is we need to set up the domain name. So you'll need your public IP address for that. I've got a page set up already for that, so I go into my GoDaddy account, because that's what I use, and for this domain it's dashanddata.com, which I use for a lot of stuff. And so I'm going to add a record here, and I'm going to select an A record, and since it's for the dashanddata.com, I just need the beginning part of the URL, so I'm going to copy this for the production web app, and then my public IP address is this, and then for TTL, what I do is I just set custom, and I think the least amount of seconds is the best because I think that will refresh it the most. So now I've got this set up here. All right, now I should be able to go into a browser window and see the app. But actually I found that I can't, for some reason I can't go through, I need to go through a private window. So I'm gonna open up a private window and, okay, so here we go. Now, if it doesn't load up right away for you, you know, there's things that you want to check to make sure that you have your firewall set up and the public IP address correct and your port forwarding rules set up. But it might also take a little time for the domain name to refresh. Now that that works, let's go to the reverse proxy server in Nginx files and let's set those up. So I'm going to go into my reverse proxy server folder that I've already created, and I'm going to add another folder and call this one, I'm going to call it machine 01 because that's what I called it on the article, but this is the reverse proxy server. So we can do reverse proxy server. All right. And there, now let's go back to our, here. So I'm going to Visual Studio Code. I'm going to add these folders back in there. Actually, I just need that one. And since I've already got my Nginx files for the reverse proxy server, so here we're going to need to make two. I'm going to make one for the production server, and so the naming convention here is just going to be the URL, and I'm going to place them in a different location, so I don't need to put the .conf. And so I'm going to copy this server block here into this file, and you'll see there's a lot of similarities between this one and the files for the that are going into the production server and the development server. These are so first we're going to be listening on port 80, and then the server name is the URL address, and then the location here is where we're going to send it to. So proxy pass is going to, this is for the development server. So the development server is going to this local IP address, and it's being served on port 8000. Then I have this location static, which you don't always need, but when I had a different domain name that wasn't .com, the static wasn't getting forwarded. But if I added this static at this level at the reverse proxy server, then everything worked out okay. So I'm going to save this here, and then I'm going to make another one, and I'm going to call this one for the production server. So here we go. Now I'm going to move these files into the reverse proxy server machine, which is here in my CyberDuck. Machine 1, I'm going to copy both of these files. Okay, so I'm going to open up a terminal, and I'm going to access the reverse proxy machine 01 reverse proxy server. So I've got SSH into that, and you can SSH however. I've already set up machine 01. Okay, so now I'm in my reverse proxy server machine 01, and I see the files that we just made, the Nginx files. So I got to move them into the Nginx folder. So what I'm going to do is sudo move www.develop. And I've actually got, I've got the what do I do? Okay, so I do sudo move. Well, here I didn't actually name them the same way. I named them differently, but we're gonna do the www. So sudo www development. And if I tab over, once I start writing it, I get the full name. So Nginx, and then we're going to go to sites available. And okay, it needs my password. All right. So the development file got moved over. Now we're going to move over the production. So sudo move www.prod. Okay, and we're going to etc Nginx sites available. All right. Now we have to link these guys. So I've got code here, but I can't use this exactly. So I'm going to do sudo ln-s and then etc Nginx sites. I'm going to tab because those are my friends. Help me. And I'm going to www.devel. Okay. And then I got to link it to, I think it creates a shortcut in this sites enabled folder. So etc Nginx sites enabled, and then sudo ln-s etc Nginx sites available prod, and then we're going to go etc Nginx sites enabled. And then I've also got this here code to test it. So if you just do sudo nginx-t, it tests that the syntax in these files is okay. So it says it's okay, so that's good. And then I'm gonna do reload. So sudo systemctl reload nginx. Okay, so now I've got the nginx file set up in the proxy server. And we're going to check the firewall so that it's open. Sudo ufw status. Okay, so now my firewall is good in the production, in the reverse proxy server. Now, what we got to do is we're going to go back to the router app, and we're going to change the port forwarding rules from that they were previously going to the production server, but now we're going to delete this guy and we're going to add one for the reverse proxy server, and that one is called machine 01, and it's the local IP address ending 133. So I'm going to click that, and then toots and 80. Okay. Now we're going to do OK here. All right. Now, the other thing we have to do is set up the firewall on the development and production server so that they both allow traffic from the reverse proxy server. I'm going to log in to I'm going to go back to the production server, and we're going to check the firewall. So the firewall, sudo ufw status. Okay, so this is assuming that it's going to send traffic through the Nginx, the port 80 or port 443, which we're not using right now. So I'm going to say, actually, I'm going to use this code here that I saved in a file. This, because this is specific to me. So I could do specifically say from sudo ufw allow from this local IP address, which is the machine 01 reverse proxy server, to any port 8000. So I'm going to copy this, paste it here, and then sudo ufw status, and now I see that there. Now I'm going to do the same thing for my development server. So I'm going to sudo ufw status. I entered in the wrong password. Okay, it's inactive. So now I'm going to do sudo ufw enable sudo ufw status. Okay, so here I've already opened up the port from anywhere to, or I'm sorry, from 8000 to 113, so we're good here. So now you should be able to see now the production server from a private window like we've already done. So if I go, no, not this one, I want a private. And if we copy that URL, here we go. That's good, but we've already seen that one. But we haven't seen the development server from the internet. So I'm going to click this, and actually I don't think it's going to work because we have to set up the domain name in GoDaddy. So I'm going to go back to my GoDaddy account, and I'm going to add a new record. I'm going to add a record, and I'm going to add this here. And then my IP address is going to use the same public IP address here. So this is the key. It's same public IP address, but now it's a different machine that we're going into. And if everything's working right, it should be able to access. It's not HTTPS, it's HTTP, and it's still not accessing. I believe this is because it's going to take a minute, because if you recall, we set it for 600 seconds. So if you SSL certify, it actually seems to work a lot faster. But I'm going to pause this video, take a second, and we're going to come back to it in a few minutes, and it should be there. Okay, so I literally had to wait 10 minutes because that's when I had the TTL in my the 600 seconds that I set up here in the in my GoDaddy account. It took 10 minutes because 600 seconds divided by 60 is 10 minutes. And now we're back. And if I go into, if I try to access the development server, the web app, from a private window, here we go. Okay, so here we go. So we got one IP address, and it's going to two different machines. So I hope you find this helpful. If you got any comments, leave them below, or if there's anything I could do to help, let me know in the comments, and I will send a reply. Okay, thanks.